Hello YouTube, Ryan here. Today I want to show my other build that I'll be league starting with in Solo Self-Found Ultimatum League. Each league, my goal is to complete the Atlas, kill endgame bosses like Maven and Uber Elder, and get 36 challenges done. The build I'm showcasing today is a Raise Spectre Necromancer using Primal Crush Claws as their endgame Spectre. This is my toon in Standard. They were my main in Ritual League. I am showcasing the build without any cluster jewels in this video. This build originally comes from K Gaming. She makes amazing builds, so definitely check them out. I'll leave a link in the description. I edited this one a bit just so it's a bit tankier with spell block and anointed flesh for higher max elemental resistances. I also have a one cluster version that I have in the POB as well. You basically just run around tagging the mobs with Stormbrand to trigger elemental equilibrium, and your specters do the rest. You have a carrion golem, and you have Animate Guardian, and you also have zombies. For bosses and enemies that live longer than a couple seconds, you have Frost Bomb with Avatar Fire to trigger Cold Explosion. And you also have Bone Offering up all the time, which helps with survivability. I only switch to Flesh Offering for big single target bosses like Conquerors. Now, for buffs from 3.14 patch notes, the unique Ghastly Eye Jewel could be good. We don't know what it is yet, so that's a maybe. And we have better access to lab enchants, so it will be easier to get one that's applicative to this build. For 314 nerfs, Crush Claws got their life cut in half, but that's okay because their life was like really insane before. All of the notables that we use in the cluster setup got slightly nerfed, so it would be less damage to add it into the build. They lowered the cold exposure on Frost Bomb by 10%, and they nerfed trigger socketed spells on wands or on weapon enchant to be every 8 seconds instead of 4, which doesn't matter for this build because Tempest Shield and Bone Offering both last longer than 8 seconds. For pros of the build, it maps and bosses super well. It feels great with the Bone Chill on your Skitterbots, letting your minions freeze everything, and then it has like almost max attack and spell block, and this is without glancing blows, so it's like actual block. And then it doesn't require that many uniques, and the ones it does require are fairly common, other than like the Kingmaker for your Animate Guardian. And it scales well while leveling and right into red maps. For cons, it takes a bit of crafting and cluster jewels to get to the end game. Getting a level 21 Raise Spectre gem is really annoying in SSF. In Heist League it took me 21 tries. Getting a +1 Spectre chest can be annoying because of the RNG, because you're not guaranteed to get it in minion delve nodes. And then Syndicate operatives are just straight up better, but I prefer the melee minion playstyle, so that's why I'm not using them. Okay, so we're in the POB here. I have two setups here. This is the non-cluster version. The only major differences I have from like K's build is I take this one for more spell block, and I take Anointed Flesh for more max resistances. In the notes section here, I have the things that I'm going to be looking for / crafting depending on which tier of map I'm in. So like white maps, red, yellow maps. And then I have like Awakener 8, so this is like end game stuff. And then in the cluster setup is Feasting Fiends Renewal. Mediums are First Among Equals, Vengeful Commander. And then I have an empty slot here. This would be where you put the unique Ghastly Eye Jewel, or if it ends up not being that great, then just another Ghastly Eye Jewel, or you can just put another Surging Vitality. And then since we don't have enough points to take the block, I just took Glancing Blows with this version of the build. As far as Ascendancy, we're taking Bone Barrier for the added physical reduction and minion survivability. Mistress to keep our Bone Offering up on ourselves, and then the standard stuff here. For anointments, I pretty much always anoint Ravenous Horde. Alright, so for the gear, for the weapon we're using a Convoking Wand. you want to have at least plus all the spell gems. The physical one I hit here actually doesn't affect my specters at all. But you want to use a convoking one, and you want to get this craft to get the plus to all spells. My general recommendation is to just reforge with caster modifiers from Harvest. For shield, we're using Victario's for giving our minions frenzy charges. For an amulet, we're using Jinx Juju for it buffs our auras, and it also is a nice defensive layer. For body armor, we're using a +1 to number of specters. You can only get these type of chests in a minion delve node, and they're not a guaranteed drop, so they can take a little bit of grinding to get one. And then I had to 6-link it, so that took a little while. For gloves, we're using Grip of the Council, which you get from the 5th chain of a prophecy that I can't remember, but I'll put it on the screen when I edit this video. Stygian Vice, I usually roll it with the Chaos Essence, although this one didn't. But use a Stygian Vice to get an extra Abyss Jewel for another Ghastly Eye. For Ghastly Eye jewels, you want one that has Blind on hit and one that has Chance to Taunt. After that, you just want life, flat, physical damage to minions, and then you also want attack speed. For boots, you want to get an Elder base that is, I think, yeah, it's going to be, I can't remember what the eye level requirement is, but it's going to be a higher level, but not super high, Elder base to get the mod +1 to level of all Raise Spectre gems. Until you get that, you can use the really cheap, unique, that has that baked in that you can use from like level 1. I'll put that on the screen too, I forgot off the top of my head. For rings, generally you want to go for you want at least one unset ring, and then you want one ring that has Redeemer influence, so you could get curse enemies have frostbite on hit, which you can also use Reforging Harvest with caster modifiers more likely. This one got the minion damage too. If you can get the minion damage, that's great, but this is hard to get both of them. So ideally, your other ring would be like a Viridian ring, or a ring that has Redeemer influence so that you could roll the minion damage mods. But just general life resistances, and you definitely need a good amount of dexterity to use Hatred, which is you need almost 100 dexterity, so definitely want to get some of that on your jewelry as well. And then for a helm, you want to use a bone helm. You can get up to +3 level of socketed minion gems if it's a high enough eye level, but I have just +2 here. I have my carrion golem in here, so they're getting plus the levels. And then for flasks, rummies, you can farm it in Adzuri if you put in all the sacrifice fragments and just run that over and over again. There's a much higher chance to drop in there, so you probably get one there. Other than that, we're using a basalt with ignite immunity, a quartz with curse immunity, a bubbling life flask with bleed immunity, and then I have my freeze immunity on Quicksilver. So this character's a bit slow. I don't really care because I'm just flame dashing everywhere, but if you want, you can take out the ignite immunity and put the freeze immunity here, and then just have adrenaline on here so you move a little bit faster. For gem links, we swap melee splash with hypothermia, so you want to get one bite socket in your chest piece as well. For Pantheon, I do Lunaris for most content, and then I like this one for the extra life, both getting the extra life when you're low, and then also for getting the extra charges on long boss fights. And then I usually switch to this one, which I think this league coming up, I'm going to make sure to fill this one out too, for like Sears and stuff with lots of damage over time. Okay, so for the Animate Guardian, for a budget setup, I like to use Dying Breath along with this chest piece for survivability and Leer Crest. And then for the gloves and boots, you want to make sure, if you can get the regen lab enchant, get that on the boots. And you want to make sure you have Chaos Res rolled on both of those items, because you want your Animate Guardian to have 50 Chaos Res so that they have it capped. You'll eventually transition into an endgame setup, which will be Kingmaker, assuming I find one, or you find one. And if you get a Redeemer Helm, eye level 85 or higher, which can be tough to find, you can roll it. I usually use the Harvest Reforges with cold modifiers, and then you'll get nearby enemies have negative cold to resistances. So that would be the endgame setup to replace Leer Crest and Dying Breath. And that's it. Let me know in the comment section below if you tried this build out or a similar one. I'm also going to be uploading my Slayer build, which will be the first character I make. This will be the second character I make, probably like a week into the league. So look for that. Regardless of which league you pick, I hope your league start goes well, and I will see you in the next video.